morning, everybody. 5 years ago, I sat here and we come third in the European elections, and everybody said it was a fluke, it was a flash in the pan, it was all because of celebrity, and it would never happen again. Well, I'm very pleased to be able to sit here this morning to say that UKIP has come second in a national election, and we are absolutely delighted with that. The potential for this, I'd always felt was there, and I now think that Gordon Brown's humiliation is such that I hope and believe that it's UKIP that will have delivered the coup de grace, and I've no doubt that collecting backbenchers' signatures to get rid of him will now become very much easier indeed. Of course, this time we'll be told that it's a fluke again, although, as Gary Player, the famous golfer, once said, it's funny, the more I practice, the luckier I get. You know, European elections are made for you, should be made for UKIP. They're contested on the basis of PR, and they should be about the European issue. However, this election has not really been about the European issue, because the expenses row has clouded and dominated everything. Now, of course, people say, well, UKIP rose in the polls because of the expenses row. Actually, I think what the expenses row did was make a lot of people not go out and vote at all, and the people that went out and voted UKIP did so because they agreed. You know, when we first had people elected 10 years ago, the idea that we should be outside of a European Union, having a simple free trade agreement, was very much a minority sport. But we now have a clear, settled majority in this country that want to trade with Europe, but not have 75% of our laws made there. And I believe that it's because we've had UKIP MEPs, and because we've been making those arguments over the course of the last 10 years, that we have helped to shift public opinion. Now, I would have loved this campaign to have been about the European question, because I was conscious, certainly in southern England, that a lot of Conservatives who lent their votes to us last time round didn't vote for us this time round. And that, of course, is because Mr. Cameron was saying, we will give you a referendum. And frankly, I would like to have seen that tested rather more. It was tested. William Hague was tested on Newsnight, and he began to give the impression of a goldfish. Because, of course, they're not really promising a referendum. They're saying we will only have a referendum if the Irish were to vote no for a second time. If the Irish vote yes, we're not going to have a referendum. So I wish these things had been out, publicly debated. I'm afraid over the course of the last few weeks they simply weren't. And I believe that if we'd had a debate on the European question, then UKIP's percentage would have been higher than it was last night. The one sadness of the campaign for us was that with a name such as UK Independence Party, we were at or very near the bottom of the ballot papers. Now, for some reason, despite the Electoral Commission's guidance, some local authorities decided to get the ballot papers folded commercially, hot folded commercially. There are many instances in Yorkshire, for example, of the way the paper came out. UK Independence Party was the only party folded over on the back with a very, very tight crease, and to vote UKIP, you had to turn the ballot paper over and then use a fingernail to pull the ballot out. So we saw some real abuse, I'm afraid, of the electoral process in Yorkshire. Similarly, there were parts of the northwest in which we're less than happy, and up to a third of the southeast region was administered in a way that we find wholly unacceptable. And we were avalanche with telephone calls at our call centres from people saying, we went out, we wanted to vote UKIP, we couldn't vote UKIP, we had to vote for somebody else. I did get the Electoral Commission at lunchtime on polling day to issue an instruction to make sure that folded ballot papers were not given out, but I'm afraid up until 9, 10 o'clock at night there were many polling stations who refused that instruction. So we are less than happy. We need to do some serious statistical analysis, and we're going to make a decision within the next few days whether we're going to petition, whether we're going to challenge, and whether we're going to get one or two of these district councils to have re-elections. So that was the one thing that slightly marred it for us. I suppose this sort of charade, this sort of banana republic style democracy could only really happen in New Labour's Britain, but there we are. Now, it's often been said that the trouble with UKIP is that it's all a bunch of old men, and I've been doing my best to look young, but perhaps I'm failing a bit on that score. But we do have a couple of women that have been elected, and one of them is with me. She's Marta Andreasen, and I'm especially looking forward to Marta going back to Brussels. I'm not sure that everybody else in Brussels is looking forward to her return. So Marta Andreasen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As you may imagine, I'm thrilled to go back to Brussels and give these people who fired me after raising concerns about the accounts and the payments in the European Union budget a very, very hard time. I know where the bodies are buried, and I will not give them any peace at all. I want to go there to find out where the money of the British taxpayers is being wasted, and come back and tell the people here so they can react to this. But other than that, I think UKIP has an important role to play. During the hustings and the meetings, I have been telling the British people that it is not only the British people who would like to leave the European Union. There are movements around Europe that are wanting to leave the European Union because they don't believe it is in the interest of the European people. And I think UKIP is playing a very important role. And now that we have been so successful, I think we have to lead the way for the rest of the countries to start moving out of the European Union. I think in the next couple of weeks we will have to do a big job in trying to unite forces with the people in other countries that have the same feeling and thinking like us. So we are all now prepared to work together. We have a big job ahead, and we hope to be successful. I owe it to the British people who have voted me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. And Marta will be joining the European Parliament's Budgetary Control Committee, and I shall make sure I'm with her when she walks into the room for the first time. Now, I said we had some younger people as well, and on my right is Paul Nuttall, who's been the party chairman for a year. Liverpool lad, 32 years old. He was elected last night as our new MEP for the North West region. Paul, over to you.
Okay, I've just returned from what can only be described as a monumental battle in the North West, where we took one seat, but unfortunately Nick Griffin was elected also. Griffin was elected because we failed by 900 votes. Now, the point I want to make about this is I don't believe that the BNP were elected on policy. I believe the BNP have been elected because of poor tactics by other political parties and also by the media. What you've done in effect is you've played up the BNP, you've given them the opportunity and the oxygen to get out there, and I don't believe that Nick Griffin would be elected today if it wasn't for the media. Now, what we will continue to do is we will continue this fight with the BNP, and we will continue it throughout the country, and it will go on for the next couple of years, and we will expose them for the frauds that they really are. You know, there's another election which took place recently on Thursday, which I think has been slightly overlooked. We fielded over 500 candidates in the local elections. We took 16% of the vote. That's unheard of. We had 6 councillors elected, tens of seconds and hundreds of thirds. We are now the official opposition on Staffordshire County Council. This is a major breakthrough. We are no longer a pressure group. We are a mainstream political party, and we will keep this momentum up, and we will continue putting pressure on the other political parties, and let's force Gordon Brown out. Thank you.
Paul, thank you. I've long held the view that it's only UKIP that can stop the BNP, and it's something that very few commentators seem to have picked up on, because yes, we're a patriotic party, yes, we believe in border controls, yes, we believe that the only people that should decide who has the right to come live, settle and work in this country should be us, but we do so absolutely from a non-racist and non-sectarian perspective. You know, of our 69 candidates that we fielded for England, Scotland and Wales, 5 of those candidates were black and Asian candidates who were proud to stand on our ticket. And, you know, full marks to Paul for fighting that great fight. We got double the number of votes the BNP got in the North West, and it's just a shame, for the sake of 1,000 votes, that we didn't get the second seat and that Griffin did. Now, there is one big difference between now and 2004, that we sat here in 2004, and on my right then was a former daytime television presenter. Some of you might have heard of him. His name is Kilroy Silk. And we talked about our plans, and we talked about a forthcoming general election. Well, let's be frank about it. We completely blew it in 2004. We blew it because we went into a period of total civil war. We fought a general election that we weren't ready for. We were very, very disunited. And I think that whole episode put the party back by a couple of years. Well, I don't see those sort of splits coming this time. I don't see anybody with an ego quite as big as that. Well, it wouldn't be possible, really, would it, I suppose? And what we have got to do is, right at the minute, we have just over 300 candidates selected to fight the next general election. We've got to get that up by the autumn, if we have that long, to 500, 550, and we intend to fight that general election, yes, on a full slate of domestic politics, in line with our ethos that government is too big in this country, that individuals need more freedom and the responsibility that goes with that freedom, but also I'd like to see a general election in which the three major parties, as they call themselves, in Westminster terms I guess they still are, but in which they're able to brush under the carpet the whole question of where 75% of our laws are actually made. So that's our intention. We want to make the European question a major question at the next general election, and I think there is an appetite and a hunger out there for a new kind of politics.